Finally, a manga with good sword fighting scenes. This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed. So it happened again. I got beaten by Shadiversity. But that's fine, because this time I fully agree with his view. And so this is kind of a support video, if you want to take it like that. But let's dive into the topic. So this video will be a bit different to what we usually do, but I think it is absolutely necessary. The sword community in general, including us, often complain about sword fighting as depicted in anime and manga, not only about the way they fight, but also about the weapons. And so there's always the, oh, it's okay, but this is over the top, and this might be okay, but the other stuff doesn't work. Now there's a relatively new manga on the market, also available as anime, that changes this, and therefore I really want to talk about it and I really want to promote it. The title depends a bit where you can find it. Usually it's something like Old Bumpkin to Swordmaster. And of course you can argue I like this a bit more than other anime and manga because the central figure in the story is already a bit older. It's not such a youngster as we usually see it. It's an older man, middle-aged as he says about himself, somewhere in his 40s. So what's different when we look at it? I will start out mostly showing something from the manga. I will refer to the anime, but due to copyright issues, I think it's easier to show stuff in the manga where I have a physical copy at hand. And when I refer to the anime, you can have a look yourself. I've seen it's, for example, available on Amazon Prime. When we open up the book, first page, we can already see a proper position with the sword, a Hut, as we would call it in German, namely the Wacht, that equalizes to the roof block or also cross block, depending which style you are in. Already on the next double page, we find another classical Hut, the Nebenhut. That's in fact a rarely seen one. The Wacht we can also find in some other franchises, but the Nebenhut is really something to be pointed out here. If we further simply go through the manga, we will find other positions like, for example, the Einhorn, which I'm a particular fan of. I really like that one. I will link a video in the description box why I really like the Einhorn. We can of course also find positions like Vom Tag. That shouldn't be surprising. That's a very commonly shown one. And we can find also some rarer ones like Posta di Donna if we search carefully. In later scenes we will find the main person teaching, and then you can see classrooms with a lot of people training sword fighting. And there we have another case where a lot of people assume classical, historical European martial arts sword fighting positions, so Huten. Then it comes to a first fight. Although just a training fight, we can look specifically at some of the actions. And one of them here, for example, we can see a type of Zornhau, not heavily executed, very softly, and then put over into a Versetzen. And from that one back up to the position vom Tag. Very classical, just as you would expect it. And as I said, training match, specifically softness is here an aspect because the main character does not want to hurt his training partner here. Then directly on the next page we see something that you rarely see in any anime or manga fight. We see a half sword position and an attack with the handle. Again emphasizing this training match, trying not to be too brutal to the opponent or here training partner, striking not with the tip of the sword but using the handle instead. We can also find minor aspects, small details which are interesting. For example, here there's an attack to the leg and the reaction is the main character moves up his front leg to let the attack pass. This is something that commonly occurs in free fight or in free play, but you rarely see this depicted, especially in this very precise way. This looks exactly like you can see it in some videos from our free play. So a one-to-one adaptation that we can find in this manga. So far, I've only read in detail the first of the books that are available. I know already that in later chapters we will see things like larger swords, so something like the Zweihänder or the Montante being used in different ways. And I've seen also something in the anime that goes beyond what I've discovered in the first book. Already, for example, in the opening of the anime, you will find the main character training Zwerchhau very specifically. So also using thumb hold or thumb grip. And you might know that I'm also a particular fan of this. Video on that aspect is also linked in the description box. So if you are into sword fighting and you have complained over the years about how bad fighting has been depicted, then this, I think, is one of the best exceptions to it. My best example so far has always been Chivalry of a Failed Knight. The final fight in the anime, the final fight in the sub-penultimate book. Forget about the last two ones. So that was my highlight so far. But now with this book, apparently the author either has experience himself or herself. I would have to check the gender of the person behind that, or the person behind it has had people that really know their business and have contributed their knowledge to it. If you like sword fighting, you should really have a look into that. You should popularize that. I think we can be really happy that there is finally something like that. And it seems to be reasonably successful also with the general public audience, which means it seems to be okay to have sword fights that are more historically accurate. Not all of them are. There's also, for example, involvement of magic with the sword fighting, but definitely we have here historically accurate depictions in certain aspects. And if this can be something where also the general audience is happy with, we could expect more of that, not only in manga and anime, maybe also with Hollywood movies at a certain point. So my hopes are high up here in this case that this will develop into a successful series, and this manga should become very popular also with the sword community. So if you have not checked it out, please do so. If you know people that like swords and are skeptical about manga fights, give them this book or show them the anime. This is really something that differs from what else is on the market. I will keep you updated as soon as more books come out. I might simply point out more specific techniques there. I will also continue looking for other series that might catch up on this, because this could just be a starting point of a really cool development. Hope we could inspire you. See you around next time.